together with that cables, and that is how it looks like. And they were very proud then, the Audi people, because we had 5 pavilions like that around the world, in Detroit, in Geneva, in Paris, in Tokyo, and in Frankfurt. And then in Tokyo they won that Le Mans race in 24 hours, and they had to put the race car into the pavilion and managed it to be there. Uptown Munich was our first project for an American developer in Munich, for Jerry Hines. It's, as you see, the tallest building in Munich, which is not a tall building really, but the tallest in Munich, 150 meters. Has a very, very beautiful view from there to the Alps with good weather, blue sky, very, very beautiful. Gary was not really interested in double skins because it cost too much money and it cost too much space and square meters and things like that. And he is a very talented guy, he knows everything, so you can't cheat him. And so we found out, he found out that it is necessary in Europe to provide some natural ventilation, and we found out how that could work with a single facade. And the idea was to have circular, mechanically driven windows and perforate the building with it. And that is how it works. You have individual windows, you can move them in and out just by a switch on the facade, and you move them quite slightly. So you can move them for a millimeter or 2 or centimeter or 20 or 30 or even 40. With wind pressure, which is partly very high there, it would be a problem with 40 centimeters, just with 40 centimeters fixed. So if you have high wind pressure, you go back to some millimeters and get just a little air in, and if you have low wind pressure and good weather, then you put it out like 40 centimeters and you get a breeze of fresh air into the building. We are able to ventilate that building by more than 60% during the year just by that kind of ventilation. We have an additional mechanical ventilation system in the building. I come later a little more detail to this kind of issues. This is a building, how it looks like. It is surrounded by a kind of garden and smaller buildings, so that is a kind of campus with that high rise in the middle. Directly the other side of the street from the Olympic Stadium, which is one of my favorable architectures from the 70s. That's now quite a jump in history. In 2007, they opened the headquarters of Lufthansa in Frankfurt, and we have to know about the situation. Lufthansa has their official headquarters in Cologne, but the real headquarters in Frankfurt, so all the board members and so on are sitting in Frankfurt. Roughly about 2,000 people. They plan to have more than 5,000 there. So what you see here is just 30% of the completed building. The situation on the airport is, like, this is surrounded by heavy noise. You have the airport on one side here, it starts, the runway. Then you have motorways. The A3 is the most frequented motorway in Europe. You have the local motorways around here. You have a high-speed train track directly along the building. So it's really surrounded by noise. How could you make a natural ventilated building without air conditioning there? And the result and the solution was to put that all into a glass surface, have a vertical glass facade, have an alteration of concrete and glass steel shells on top of the building as a roof and a canopy, and protect mainly the building against the noise, and then get somehow the air in and make it work, and we will see how that works. That is the design for the whole thing, that paraglider kind of design, and the first third up to that here is what we built already, and the next steps will be built the next years. This is what it is. It is 10 fingers or wings, office wings, and 10 gardens. Everybody's in his office able to open the window to one of the gardens, and everybody's office is oriented to a garden. So they are not directly oriented to the outside, to the landscape. They are indirectly oriented to it, but directly oriented to the garden. And this is the entrance. I mean, we start a small tour through the building. This is the entrance, which is the only outside garden. And this is the entrance itself. It has a kind of passage in the middle, and that spine is essential because the building gets much bigger, at the end 5,000 people are working there, you have to think about a bigger kind of spine that you would have in a normal building like that. So that has all these open atrias and the vertical infrastructure like stairways, like elevators and things, all included in that. And then as well we have small meeting areas directly related to that spine. So the office wings are quite calm in a way, and then noise protected and concentrated work. And then in the middle you have all these activities. This is the top of the building. And then in the center of 3 of these wings you have special situations like restaurants, like conference facilities and things like that. And as well, you have these office figures. This is the kind of transparency we're providing for the CEO. The rest of the building is purely transparent, also to the inside. So they have just transparent partition walls. And the CEO wanted to have to the inside some discretion, and we provided that with a piece of artwork. And this is how the working environment is like. It is an open office landscape, which is in Germany not really common. Normally they have 1 to 2 people in one office, that's it. Single office is like really popular. In all of our buildings we avoided that. But it's a difficult thing to convince the clients, the people and the staff about getting back to what they think are the 70s open office landscapes. And they're very much afraid about these 400 people sitting in one flat office and trying to protect themselves behind walls and things. So it is possible, but you have to provide a real landscape, which is more than just a flat thing. This is one of the terraces where the 3 fingers come together, and that from another side. And in between the wings you have this garden. And because they are just winter gardens, they are not heated or cooled or something, they have a kind of Mediterranean climate. They have no real winter in it. Yeah? It gets down to 5 plus something, 4, 6, 7 plus, and then up to 28, 30. So it's more or less what we would call a Mediterranean climate, and plants around that, like this one, or the bamboo garden. And we have a California beach. You can look at that, it's okay. And but what we like most is that they use it for sport. They really do things in the gardens, not just recreation, but they have sports and play games there, have conferences there, and they enjoy it very much. We have to see that at Lufthansa there are working many people just commuting to Frankfurt. They are living in Hamburg and Munich or somewhere else. The family stayed there, and they just have a weekend relation. So the company has to provide more than just a company environment. This is then the facade of these atrias, of these winter gardens, very transparent, suspended by these steel cables. It's essential because the view to the outside is through that kind of facade. And in a way, between outside and inside, you have 3 layers of glass. A double layer here in the vertical facade, and then 3 layers in the normal office facade. So you have to provide some transparency, some white glass transparency. And this is where it all comes together. This is the atrium facade, or winter garden facade. This is a balcony in front of the normal office facade, which is a timber frame facade, purely timber construction from FSC certified timber. And this is how it looks like that. And this is at the very end of the buildings, we're providing a conventional double skin facade, because the ends are not oriented to a garden. So this is the only exemption from that rule, that everybody is oriented to a garden. It has been pre-assessed in LEED Gold. Lufthansa didn't want to go further with that assessment, because there was another assessment provided by the European Union. You get a partnership, a sustainability partnership to the EU. You get that if you are 25 to 30% under the local regulation, which is in Germany quite tough, because what they have and what they had already in 2006, 2007, when that building gets rated, they have a very, very strict energy saving procedure. And if you want to get 25 to 30% under that, this is quite tough. So we are here below 100 kilowatt per square meter per year. You will see much tougher buildings later, but in that age it seemed to us be a quite difficult to reach aim, to be under 100.